Listen, we're making good progress in Iraq. Sometimes it's hard to tell it when you listen to the filter.
Tremendous progress in Iraq. All the kids are back at school, 10% more than when Saddam Hussein was there. There's 100% more fresh water.
It's a fresh start for Iraqi athletes.
So far, 2,500 schools have been renovated.
Are Iraqis better off than they were 1 year ago?
Yes, they are definitely better off.
As these brave athletes look forward to making Olympic gold.
I mean, there's so many positive developments.
Fox has made a decision to present the Iraq War as a success and as an ongoing success.
The Baghdad Equestrian Club is open for business. And yes, you can play these ponies.
It's the Iraq you don't hear about. Falling unemployment, rising wages, interest rates down, foreign investment up.
Life for 95% of the Iraqis is already immeasurably better than it was under the decades of Saddam's rule. There's no question about that, and that's what's the least reported story over there. You go to the markets, they're thriving. Big fat fish coming out of the Tigris and the Euphrates River.
Young men in Baghdad blowing off steam with their cars. The guys gather to put their wheels through the paces once a week, something they say they were not allowed to do under the old regime.
The senior producer told the 2 or 3 writers for her news hour, she told us, now just keep in mind it's all good. This is such a fair and balanced issue. Keep it positive. We've got to emphasize all the good that we're doing. She at that point made a reference to rebuilding schools, bringing democracy to Iraq, and then she said, see, big progress. Yoo-hoo for us. Things were actually at that point going quite badly. Many more American soldiers were dying each day, and God knows how many Iraqis.
277 U.S. soldiers have now died in Iraq, which means that statistically speaking, U.S. soldiers have less of a chance of dying from all causes in Iraq than citizens have of being murdered in California, which is roughly the same geographical size.
The People survey is interesting because you're looking at questions of basic true-false kind of factual nature. Did we find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? These are very simple questions with very simple answers. And what the survey found was that the more likely you were to watch Fox News Channel, the more likely you were to have completely incorrect assumptions about these things.
All the research shows a very high correlation, in the case of Fox News, with people watching it, with having a very confused notion of the world on one hand, especially of foreign policy in the Middle East, and also being strongly supportive of the government in power. And this is an extraordinarily disturbing trend for the media. I mean, for any self-respecting journalist, if you're told the more people consume your media, the less they'll know about the subject and the more they'll support government policy. And that's exactly the worst thing any journalist would ever want to hear, or should want to hear.
In terms of Fox overall, I think we have got to appreciate, and when we look at them, is to understand that this is an adjunct of the Republican Party.
What Fox specializes in is punditry, basically getting marching orders from the Republican National Committee or some political operative, and then having people pontificate about it, have guests come on and talk about it, have pseudo-experts come on and discuss it.
Their main allegiances, I'm talking about the people at the top, is to the Republican Party.
Murdoch is absolutely to his core a partisan, and he makes no secret about that.
George W. Bush sat for an interview in Austin with Fox News Channel's Carl Cameron, who joins us now with highlights. Hello, Carl.
Hi, Brett. Well, it was well known in the summer of 2000 that Fox's lead political correspondent covering the Bush campaign, that his wife was campaigning for Bush.
Bush does have a halo. Okay. Tell me when you're ready, guys.
You're good. Your family?
Very well. My wife has been hanging out with your sister.
Yeah, good. My county.
Laura's been all over the state campaigning, and Paulina's been constantly with her. So
Laura's a good person.
She's been terrific. I mean, Pauline, to hear Pauline tell it, when she first started campaigning for you, she was a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But now she's up
getting
there.
Her stride?
She doesn't need notes. She's going to crowds, and she's got the whole riff down.
She's a good soul.
She's having fun, too.
She's a really good soul.
And in any other news organization, in fact, in CNN that very summer, there was a producer whose husband was a lawyer for the Gore team. And this was a producer who would have naturally covered Gore, who was immediately told you're not to have anything to do with campaign coverage, either covering Bush or covering Gore, because of the possible conflict of interest or the perception of a conflict of interest. At Fox, they didn't care. The fact that the senior political reporter, his wife, is actually campaigning for the Bush campaign at a time when this guy's covering them, that didn't even register. It never would have occurred.
All right, you guys ready? All right.
That's great.
Here we go, Governor. See, the little things that get disclosed.
I like that.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Carl. It's good to see you again.
Just a few days away from the convention
That's the lack of having some sort of basic journalistic integrity that is just missing from that organization.
First person who made the call to say that George W. Bush had been elected President of the United States was the person who was in charge of Fox News's election analysis division, the people that crunch the exit polling numbers. That person was a gentleman named John Ellis, and he is George W. Bush's first cousin. At around 2 in the morning on election night, a new set of data had come in, and it was complex data from precincts all over Florida. The proper answer in analyzing that data unquestionably was you couldn't tell. It was too close to call. There was simply no clear winner. Instead, John Ellis called it as a clear win for George Bush. Fox News then interrupted its ongoing election coverage and announced that George Bush had been elected President of the United States.
Fox News now projects George W. Bush the winner in Florida, and thus it appears the winner of the presidency of the United States.
Now, what's significant about that is not the intervention of the president's cousin to declare his relative the new president of the United States. It was the fact that within minutes, ABC, NBC, CBS also fell right in line, calling Bush as the winner.
George Bush is the president-elect of the United States.
Bush wins.
ABC News is now going to project that Florida goes to Mr. Bush.
There's no way that they could have crunched the data in that time to come to that conclusion. In fact, quite the opposite. They should have come to the conclusion which the Associated Press came to, which was that you couldn't make a call. When Fox made the call that Bush had won and the other networks followed on, that created the perception that Bush was the winner. In fact, he wasn't. But that perception was what really held for the next 37 days. And I would suggest to you that that call on election night had more to do with making George Bush president than any recount or ballot design issue.
We gave our audience bad information. Our lengthy and critical self-examination shows that we let our viewers down. I apologize for making those bad projections that night. It will not happen again.